Hey guys, this is Animat, and welcome back to the Muppet Vlog. Now this time we're going to be looking into the 6th episode of Season 5 of The Muppet Show, which features Brooke Shields. Now for those of you who are unfamiliar with who Brooke Shields is, she actually started out as a child actress, appearing in numerous of films. Sometimes they could be controversial, in works like Pretty Baby, The Blue Lagoon, Endless Love, and many more. She then took a little bit of a break to go study in university, and that's when, afterwards, she decided to return to acting and appear in numerous of TV shows, where she got massive recognition in the sitcom Suddenly Susan, and then would also appear in other shows like That 70s Show, Hannah Montana, and so much more. Like, she is actually known to be a very prominent, special guest star when appearing in different TV shows. And of course, The Muppet Show is one of them. So, going into the episode that she appeared in, this is actually rather interesting, but also at the same time, very weird. Considering that this is similar to the episodes of Lynn Redgrave and Liza Minnelli, where in those ones, the episode is entirely devoted to making a Robin Hood bit or a murder mystery. This one is actually entirely devoted to Alice in Wonderland. And some of you could be thinking that, mixing in the Muppets with Alice in Wonderland could be a great idea. But much like the Robin Hood episode, it doesn't seem to work out as well as you'd probably think it would, considering that, keep in mind, this is only a 30-minute episode, so they don't really have a lot of time to really fully create an actual Alice in Wonderland story, especially when, with the format of the Muppet Show, they would often go backstage and, they still have to remind you, yeah, they still have to go and put on a show and stuff like that. But, going into the different aspects that went into it, of course, Brooke Shields was the star in this, so she would have to play the part of Alice, and it's mostly going into her adventures, simultaneously trying to play the part of Alice, but also getting into some pretty weird situations where she would legitimately be growing to the size of a giant, or ended up becoming so small that no other Muppet would be capable of finding her. And then at the same time, you also got a few scenes happening. It's not all the Alice in Wonderland scenes, but you got Alice entering into the rabbit hole and falling down, and then you also got the trial scene, then also you got the caterpillar scene, and then you also got the Mad Hatter scene. And there are a few other ones like Humpty Dumpty and also the Jabberwocky, but that's pretty much it, and they're not entirely in order. And considering that, for me, I am a pretty big fan of Alice in Wonderland, rather it be the 1951 Walt Disney classic or the original book that Lewis Carroll wrote. Yeah, this one, I just feel like, I honestly don't know how to feel specifically about this episode in particular. It's trying to be two completely different things at the same time. It wants to tell the story of the Alice in Wonderland, but it also has to be a Muppet Show episode. And I feel like this episode in particular, it is really struggling trying to be both at the same time, especially with the amount of time that they have. Like I mentioned, it's not all the scenes from the Alice in Wonderland book, and not everything is in order in particular. I mean, sure, there are some few memorable scenes at the same time. You got Fozzie completely confused, and he ended up dressing up like the Tin Woodsman from The Wizard of Oz. And then also in the trial scene, probably one of the most memorable aspects has to be the judge, played by Marvin Suds, who's just playing as Marvin Suds. Which definitely was a lot of fun to check out. And it has been a while since I've actually seen anything from Marvin Suds throughout the Muppet Show, so seeing him coming back is actually a lot of fun. You do also got this entire smiling medley in the middle of it, where Fozzie just feels a little bit down on himself because he got the wrong costume, and everybody is trying to cheer him up. And, yeah, it's a cute little number. And by the way, for those of you who are probably curious to know regarding about who was playing who, like, of course you got Miss Piggy playing as the Queen of Hearts, but originally she wanted to get the part of Alice. I think Miss Piggy was actually really good in this episode, not because of the role that she played, but mostly of what was going on backstage. So that's the most I'll tell you there, but like you probably have to see the episode just to know like how Miss Piggy is, and it's definitely fantastic. But also you got Gonzo playing as the Mad Hatter, while the March Hare is just a rabbit made exclusively for the episode in particular. I mean, there's actually a lot of characters here that are made like specifically for this episode, like the White Rabbit, the March Hare, Humpty Dumpty, the Jabberwocky, among a few others. What else was there? Oh yeah, like the Caterpillar was Floyd, the Cheshire Cat was Dr. Teeth. Although there's no scene with the Cheshire Cat and Dr. Teeth, which actually I feel that part was a bit of a wasted opportunity. Have like some kind of electric mayhem bit with the Cheshire Cat. That would have been pretty cool. Man, what else was there? I mean, Link Hogthrob is the King of Hearts. And, yeah, like, honestly, this is the kind that, like, honestly, it's, like I said before, it's not really trying to be an Alice in Wonderland adaptation. It's mostly trying to do that while simultaneously be a Muppet Show episode. And I feel like this is the kind of thing where, like, you can either be one or the other. Trying to be both at the same time, it just somehow didn't really mix that well in this episode in particular. And, by the way, there is actually something that is actually worth mentioning, a little behind-the-scenes factoid onto this, and this one actually has a lot more than many other episodes, actually. Considering that she was 15 years old when the episode actually aired on television. So, during production, at that time, there were actually some child labor laws that they had to follow, so they were only capable of filming Brooke Shields for only a few hours at a time during the day. And while she was not filming, she was mostly hanging around the Muppet Workshop, where she actually helped out making a lot of the puppets that would eventually appear in the Jabberwocky scene, where it's probably the most psychedelic aspect of the episode, where you see a lot of weird Muppets, and then you also got Scooter trying to fight off the Jabberwocky and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's basically the big thing about this episode, is that they actually got a young teenager to be the special guest star in here. So I would say that overall with this episode with Brooke Shields, I understand the direction that they were going with, and I could definitely see the massive potential with what they can do with it, especially when like you would bring in the Muppets and tell the story of Alice in Wonderland, and it could have turned out fantastic in the same veins of something like the Muppets Christmas Carol or even Muppets Treasure Island. But with the way that it turned out, it just didn't work out as well, considering that it's not only trying to be a Muppet adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, but also at the same time, it's trying to be a Muppet Show episode. And trying to mix in the two together, especially with a very limited time of just like half an hour, it didn't necessarily work out well. So it's hard to really determine what this episode is really trying to be. Is it a regular Muppet Show episode, or is it trying to be an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland? It's really hard to determine. Like, it's honestly a little bit in the same veins of the Lynn Redgrave episode with how they tried to adapt Robin Hood, but it definitely wasn't like the murder mystery episode with Liza Minnelli. So yeah, honestly, it's just like, if you're coming in expecting a Muppet adaptation of Wizard of Oz, you might end up being a little bit disappointed. It is a rather unique episode, but the way that it's handled, well, like, it had a lot of promise, but yeah, I don't think it really worked out as well. But anyways, that is pretty much it for this episode of the Muppet Vlog, so I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see if things can get back to regular order onto the next episode, and maybe whatever they're going to try to adapt, they'll adapt it a lot smoother and something that could work out with the Muppet Show format. But we will only know until next time, so see you later, dudes!